Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Nick threatens to kill Mitch, and Noah's scandalous affair and facial injuries are made public. Jack refuses to go to the rink with Kyle and Harrison at the Abbott mansion. Kyle asks whether he has heard anything from Claire as he reaches for his phone. They both agree that they miss her after Kyle reads him her text. As they leave, Diane shows up. She is aware of their son's suffering. Claire is informed by Victoria in Los Angeles that Noah has emerged from his coma and is expected to fully recover. She is relieved that Nick can unwind for a while. However, Nick is not at all at ease because he just slugged Mitch/Matt in the shadow room. Sienna. Mitch protests that he doesn't know who Nick is, but Sienna threatens to call the police. Nick refers to him as Matt and lets loose, threatening to murder him if he approaches his family. That is not a danger. That's a promise, he yells. Sienna asks her husband, what the hell was that all about, as Nick storms out. Nick YNR. As Sienna laments that Noah's parents believe he is someone named Matt Clark, Mitch acts foolish and sidesteps. He says he doesn't know why people nickname him Matt. Sienna is certain that something isn't quite right. Nick Newman doesn't appear to be the type of person who would randomly hit someone. Mitch threatens to unleash his fury on the Newman if she doesn't stop now. Sienna is unfazed and wants to know if Mitch has ever met the Newmans. He wants to know the truth about Noah and her. According to Sienna, they only got along because Mitch wanted her to respond to his inquiries regarding the company. All of a sudden, she questions whether this is really her husband's business endeavor. Mitch Matt YNR. Does Claire regret having sex with Holden? Victoria questions Claire about Holden while they are still in the cafe. Claire acknowledges that she has discovered a lot of fascinating details about the man she has been dating, which has caused her to consider her desires and dislikes. She tells her mother that every decision she made was her own, but she can't help but wonder if she went a bit too far. She's not sure she wants to live life on the edge as Holden does, so the only thing she's wondering about is who she did it with. She's been thinking about where she wants to go from here and with whom because of this vacation. Claire YNR. Hospital events. Meanwhile, Nick has returned to the hospital, where Sharon finds out that he threatened and struck Matt Clark. Nick clarifies that Noah's collision occurred close to his home as they swap notes on Mitch's denial of being Matt. Sharon will not put up with this man's abuse. Nick swears he won't approach her. Sharon questions why Matt Clark has returned to them and why he pursued Noah, despite the fact that he is supposedly dead. Sharon Nick YNR. When Sharon and Nick pay Noah a visit, he inquires about his whereabouts. They obviously have more knowledge than they are disclosing to him. Why is his room being equipped with security? They look at one another warily. Nick and Sharon go outside to discuss the amount of information that is safe to share with Noah with the doctor. They are instructed to be truthful. However, keep an eye on his response and stop if he gets irritated. They are subsequently informed by the doctor that Noah's bandages can be taken off. Sharon is eager. Nick tells dad jokes in Noah's room while the nurse starts removing the bandages. When he is finally free of them, he asks, "So, how bad is it?" His parents reassure him that Allie will always adore him and that he looks fantastic. When his girlfriend's name is spoken, Noah's demeanor shifts. He says it's because he misses her, but he doesn't want her to come out. Noah turns back to the mishap. They question him about Sienna, Mitch, and the shadow room. YNR Noah. Jack informs Diane at the Abbott residence that Allie told him about Noah. She will update them. Talk shifts to Kyle's pain. Diane believes they ought to advise him to return to Los Angeles. They argue until Jack understands the reasoning behind it. They tell Kyle to go fight for the woman he loves as he enters. Jack Diane YNR. The last scenes. Claire tells her mother in the LA cafe that although Holden taught her a lot, he isn't the one. Where does Kyle fit into this, Victoria wonders. Claire isn't prepared for the level of dedication the Abbott is seeking at this time. It's too much, too quickly. She intends to concentrate on her work. Kyle deserves to know, so Victoria begs her to tell him. Holden shows just as Claire is ready to head out to catch her flight home, offering to accompany her to the airport. They are traveling together. Claire Victoria. Diane and Jack persuade Kyle to return to Los Angeles at that precise moment in Genoa City. Kyle, Jack, Diane. Sienna questions Mitch in the shadow room about why there is animosity and why Nick Newman believes he knows him. Why does he refer to him as Matt? Mitch, what aren't you telling me? Mitch Sienna YNR. Noah claims at the hospital that he met Mitch in London and that he suggested he move to Los Angeles. Nick informs him that they connected after Sienna contacted his phone following the accident. Why hasn't their son informed them that he has been visiting for months, Sharon wonders. Noah flashes to an intense makeout session with Sienna after asking if she mentioned that he had been at the club the night of the accident. Do you remember something? Asks Nick. Nick Newman was seething with unrestrained rage as the truth about Mitch, or rather, Matt Clark, continued to unravel in front of him. The walls of the shadow room pulsed with tension as Nick's voice cut through the low music and dim lights, his fury barely contained. He had just discovered that the man his son had been associating with wasn't who he claimed to be, and all of the pain, confusion, and fear that had built up since Noah's accident now boiled over into pure anger. His fist clenched, his jaw tightened, and his voice came out in a growl that echoed through the bar. If you ever come near my family again, he snarled, shoving Mitch hard against the wall, I swear to God, I'll kill you. That's not a threat, that's a promise. Sienna gasped as the two men glared at each other, the weight of decades-old secrets crackling in the air like static electricity. Mitch, hiding behind his new identity, tried to act confused, but there was something in his eyes, something sharp and calculating, that betrayed him. Sienna stepped forward, her voice trembling as she demanded, what the hell was that all about, Nick? Why are you calling my husband Matt? But Nick had no patience left to answer. His fury consumed him as he stormed out of the shadow room, leaving chaos and confusion in his wake. Sienna turned to her husband, still shaking, her mind racing. Why would Noah Newman's father call Mitch by another name, one that made him pale as if a ghost had just stepped into the room? Mitch brushed it off, pretending not to understand. I don't know what that lunatic's problem is, he muttered. People around here seem to have me confused with someone else. But his deflection only deepened Sienna's unease. Something wasn't right, something had never been right since she met him. Meanwhile, at the Abbott mansion, the atmosphere was thick with tension of a different kind. Jack sat alone in the living room, lost in thought, when Kyle entered with a hesitant smile and his son Harrison's hockey gear in hand. Come on, Dad, Kyle urged gently. You promised you'd come with us to the rink today. But Jack shook his head, distracted and weary. Not today, Kyle. I'm sorry. The air grew awkward as Kyle sighed, checking his phone. Still no word from Claire, he asked quietly. Jack's eyes softened. No, he admitted. But she'll reach out when she's ready. Kyle nodded, staring down at his phone as a text from Claire finally came through, a simple message that made his heart ache. I miss you. He read it aloud, and both men fell silent for a moment, feeling her absence. Just then, Diane walked in, her expression filled with concern. You two still thinking about her? She asked knowingly. Jack nodded. We both are. Diane sighed. Then maybe it's time Kyle went after her. Across the country in Los Angeles, Claire sat in a sunny cafe with her mother, Victoria, nursing a cup of coffee as the world outside bustled on. Victoria's voice broke the calm. I just got word, Noah's out of the coma, she said softly. Claire's eyes widened. He is? Relief flickered across her face. Oh, thank God. Maybe now Nick can finally breathe again. But Victoria could see that her daughter's thoughts were elsewhere. You've been quiet since we got here, she said. Is this about Holden? Claire hesitated, glancing down at her drink. Maybe, she admitted. I learned a lot about him, about myself, too. He's adventurous, spontaneous, everything I thought I wanted. But now I'm not sure I can live like that. Maybe I went too far trying to keep up with him. Victoria reached out and took her daughter's hand. You don't have to live on the edge to be happy, sweetheart, she said. Just live honestly, with yourself and with the people you love. Claire nodded slowly, realizing that her heart was still tied to Genoa City, to Kyle, and to the world she'd tried to leave behind. Back home, Nick had returned to the hospital where the sterile smell of disinfectant did little to calm the storm still raging inside him. Sharon met him at the door, her eyes narrowing as she read his face. You hit him, didn't you? She asked quietly. Nick didn't deny it. He deserved worse, he snapped. He's the reason our son nearly died. Sharon's eyes widened. Nick, you can't just go around attacking people. He clenched his fists. That man isn't who he says he is. He's Matt Clark, Sharon. He's supposed to be dead, but he's back. And this time, he went after Noah. Sharon froze, the color draining from her face. Matt Clark? That's impossible. Nick's voice broke with fury. Tell that to my knuckles. As they walked toward Noah's room, Sharon's heart raced. When they entered, Noah looked up weakly, his face still swathed in bandages. Hey, Mom. Dad, he said faintly. What's going on? Why does my room have a guard outside? Sharon forced a smile, trying to steady her voice. It's just precaution, honey. We want to make sure you're safe. But Noah could sense that something was being hidden from him. Safe from what? He asked. From who? The tension between his parents was palpable. They exchanged a glance that only deepened his suspicion. Out in the hallway, the doctor met them with a calm professionalism. Mr. and Mrs. Newman, your son is physically strong enough to hear the truth, he said. Be honest with him, but stop if he becomes too distressed. Sharon nodded, though her heart pounded in dread. We'll do our best. The doctor added one more piece of news. And there's something else. It's time to remove the bandages. Sharon gasped, tears springing to her eyes. Finally. Back in Noah's room, Nick tried to lighten the mood with one of his famously corny dad jokes as the nurse carefully began unwrapping the gauze from Noah's face. You ready, champ? He asked with forced cheer. Because once these come off, I'm charging you for all the hospital snacks you've been stealing. Noah laughed weakly, his nerves evident. As the final layer of bandages came away, he took a shaky breath. So, how bad is it? He asked. Sharon bit her lip. You look perfect to us, she said softly. Nick added, and Allie's gonna think you're even more handsome now. But at the mention of Allie's name, Noah's smile faded. I don't want her to see me yet, he murmured. His parents exchanged another worried glance. Why not? Sharon asked gently. Because, Noah said, his voice trembling, she doesn't know everything. Later, as Sharon and Nick discussed what to tell Noah, he suddenly spoke again, his tone distant and uncertain. I remember the accident, he whispered. I was at the club, with someone. Nick's pulse quickened. With who, son? Noah looked away. Sienna, he said finally. The name hit Sharon like a thunderclap. Sienna Bacall? Nick pressed. Why were you with her? Noah hesitated, flashes of memory hitting him hard and fast, Sienna's perfume, her laughter, the heat of her skin against his in a shadowy corner of the club. He could barely speak as the truth dawned on him. Dad. I think we were having an affair. Nick's face hardened in disbelief. What? He growled. Sharon gasped, clutching her chest. Noah, that woman's married. Noah's eyes filled with shame. I know. But it wasn't supposed to happen like that. She said Mitch was just her business partner. I didn't know. Nick turned away, fury burning in his chest. That man nearly destroyed our family once before. And now his wife is sleeping with my son. Sharon could barely breathe. Nick, please, don't make it worse. But he was already marching toward the door. Meanwhile, at the Abbott mansion, Diane and Jack were having their own tense conversation. "Allie told me Noah's awake," Jack said, pacing. "He's been through hell, but Sharon says he's getting stronger." Diane nodded softly. "Good. Maybe now Kyle can get some peace, too." Jack sighed. "He's still broken up over Claire." Diane placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Then maybe it's time we push him to go back to LA. He needs closure." At first, Jack resisted. "He's just getting his footing here again." But Diane was insistent. "Sometimes you have to take a step back to move forward." Moments later, Kyle entered, clearly distraught. "Did I interrupt something?" he asked. Jack smiled faintly. "No, son. We were just saying you should go fight for the woman you love." Kyle blinked, surprised. "You think so?" Diane nodded. "Absolutely." Back in Los Angeles, Claire was admitting her truth to Victoria. "Holden taught me a lot," she said quietly. "But he's not the one. It was exciting, but it's not real. I don't think I'm ready for what Kyle wants right now. It's too much, too fast." Victoria frowned. "Then you owe him honesty. He deserves to know where you stand." Claire nodded slowly. "You're right. I'll tell him." She gathered her things, ready to leave for the airport, just as Holden appeared, smiling smoothly. "Headed home?" he asked. "Let me take you to the airport." Claire hesitated but agreed, unaware that her choice to let him drive her would soon intertwine her life even deeper into the web of lies connecting Mitch, Sienna, and Noah. Back at the shadow room, Sienna wasn't letting Mitch off the hook. "Why does Nick Newman think he knows you?" she demanded. "Why does he call you Matt?" Mitch's expression darkened, his facade cracking. "Drop it, Sienna," he warned coldly. "You don't want to know." But she stepped closer, eyes blazing. "Actually, I do." "What aren't you telling me?" The silence between them was suffocating. Finally, he hissed, "You have no idea what you're getting into." At the hospital, Noah's memories were coming faster now, pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. "I met Mitch in London," he said suddenly, his voice distant. "He told me he had a business opportunity in Los Angeles. He said Sienna could help." Nick and Sharon listened in stunned silence. "So you've known him for months?" Sharon asked softly. "Why didn't you tell us?" Noah shook his head. "I don't know. I thought it was nothing. But now," he froze as another flash hit him, Sienna's lips, her whisper, "Don't tell anyone about us." Nick's voice was low and dangerous. "Do you remember something else, son?" Noah's eyes met his father's, wide with guilt. "Yeah," he said hoarsely. "I remember everything." And just like that, the scandal that had been festering beneath the surface erupted into full view, the affair, the lies, the stolen identity, and the violent threat that tied it all together. For the Newmans, nothing would ever be the same again. Nick had declared war, not just on Mitch Clark, but on the past itself. Nick stood frozen outside Noah's hospital room, the hallway spinning as the weight of his son's confession crashed over him like a tidal wave. His hands trembled with barely restrained fury. He could still hear Noah's words echoing in his head, "I remember everything." That single sentence carried a storm's worth of pain, guilt, and betrayal. The thought that Noah had been having an affair with Sienna, the wife of Matt Clark, the man who'd tormented the Newman family for years, was too much for Nick to process. His knuckles still ached from where he had punched Mitch earlier, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the burning rage inside him. This wasn't just a scandal, it was a full-blown nightmare. And now it was public. News outlets had already caught wind of the story. Within hours, whispers began spreading through Genoa City's tight-knit circles, "Nick Newman assaults man in shadow room confrontation." Reporters were calling it a family feud, but the truth was far darker. Sharon had begged Nick to stay calm, but he couldn't. Every headline that popped up on his phone made his blood boil further. "They're painting me like the bad guy," he snapped at Sharon in the waiting room. Meanwhile, Matt Clark gets to walk around free, pretending to be Mitch Bacall, smiling in front of cameras, living a lie. Sharon placed a hand on his arm, her voice low. "Nick, please. If you do anything else reckless, it's only going to make things worse for Noah." Her words stung because they were true. Still, Nick couldn't shake the image of Mitch smirking at him earlier that night, pretending not to know who he was. Pretending not to be the man who'd haunted their lives for years. The man who had hurt Sharon, and now, indirectly, his son. "He's not going to stop," Nick muttered darkly. "Not until I stop him." Sharon's eyes filled with dread. "Nick, don't say that." He looked up at her, his face hard. "I meant what I said, Sharon. I'll kill him if I have to." At the same time, Sienna was pacing the length of her living room, her mind a tangled mess of confusion and fear. Mitch sat in his chair, eerily calm, sipping whiskey like nothing had happened. "You're scaring me," she whispered finally. "Nick Newman threatened to kill you, and you're acting like it's nothing." Mitch didn't look up. "Because it is nothing," he said coldly. "Nick Newman's a fool. He doesn't know who he's dealing with." Sienna's voice cracked. "He called you Matt. Why? Who is Matt Clark?" Mitch set down his glass with a sharp clink. His jaw tightened. "Drop it, Sienna.